Just a forewarning about this review, I am only talking about the game itself. No discussing its histories, development, creators, any of that. I am only judging this game based on the product I was given as a consumer, because that's how I think media should be judged. It's nice to have a new Mega Man style game, but it really hasn't been that long, only 2 years? Gunvolt's really that old? Well, anyway, this game has been a long time coming, but it's finally available, so I'm here to give the verdict. Is it truly worthy of its 29-year-old Capcom brethren?
I like to start reviews with a quick rundown of any technical complaints I have, because that stuff's boring, so get it out of the way. All of this I can only confirm applies to the Wii U version. The game aims for a target 30 FPS, but it rarely reaches that in gameplay. It's almost always dipping a few frames, and it chugs like a college student a few times. There's a slight input lag, nothing major, but noticeable if you're looking for it, and about 10 seconds of loading every death.
A game with frame rate, input delay, and loading problems? Sonic 06, you were preparing me, weren't you?
I know this is going to annoy a lot of people, but I wasn't bothered by any of it, not enough to dampen the experience. I could go over the story next, but why bother? It's Mega Man. Beck's a super fighting robot, his 8 siblings turned evil, he shoots them up and then confronts the one behind the revolt. I'll compliment it in that it starts to stray away from expectations towards the end, no spoilers, but it's still basic. That's what I was expecting, so I'm not disappointed, but, and I can't believe I'm saying this, there's a few plot threads left hanging by the end. At one point, Carl asks Dr. Sonder why she doesn't hesitate fighting while Beck's nervous, and she's not given an answer. A DLC level pits Beck against Ray, but there's never an explanation for her presence, even when she apparently has a connection to Dr. White. But hey, you can play as her. Somewhere. Also, considering the ending to this game and that Inafune is still working with Armature Studios on ReCore, I have the feeling he really misses Maverick Hunter. I said the story was straight Mega Man and the basic gameplay is no different. Beck controls almost exactly like the Blue Bomber, running speed, jump arc, 3 shots on screen at once. He has a little more mobility with ledge grabbing and dashing, but it's pretty close, so you'll be comfortable jumping in if you've played as much classic Mega Man as I have. Just be sure your button mashing skills are up to the test. You'll need to attack fast, especially during the final boss. Like, too fast. It's painful. There's a few differences that separate Mighty No. 9, don't get me wrong. Shooting enemies a few times envelops them in a colored aura, and dashing into them in that state absorbs them into Beck. Depending on the color, Beck gains a temporary power. Yellow increases his defense, green increases his running speed, red ups his buster power while making his shots pierce enemies and walls, and blue slowly fills what's essentially a sub-tank, but you'll lose it if you die. All of them refill weapon energy too, and this is the main draw of the gameplay, the momentum. The dash is easily spammable, which can lead to death if you get carried away, but it keeps things moving fast, like dashing through weakened enemies and buffing yourself with their ability. It's fun and new. I had a great time getting a rhythm going. The level design is a point of contention for a lot of people, and I won't lie and say I don't understand why. Stages can take up to 20 minutes on a first playthrough, and while it lowers on subsequent runs, it would take a lot of getting good to reach the 3 minutes of Mega Man 2. Each stage also has at least one instant death gimmick, which can drain your lives fast and cause a lot of repetition, replaying the same parts of the level to get past one hard section. I've also heard complaints that it's very flat level design, composed of straight lines and flat ground, but that's always how classic Mega Man was. It can totally be frustrating. I was ready to write the levels off as bad, but stick with it. Playing it is so much easier on a second playthrough, like the Zero games. If you've survived X6 or Mega Man in base, you can handle this. There's even a little variety with a call stage, who's less powerful than Beck and can't absorb enemies, but she can duck, hover, and emit an energy shield. The weapons Beck gets from the Mighty Numbers aren't incredibly useful during stages, like a lot of Mega Man games. They're more useful on the bosses weak to them, but they don't rip them apart like Mega Man 2. No, the real power is that Beck doesn't kill the Mighty Numbers, he removes the malicious programming. His siblings will repay the favor and help during the stage they're strong against by removing an annoying obstacle, a super cool idea. For example, Pyro will kill a few enemies in Cryo stage and melt the ice on the boss floor. Not only does it make levels easier, it means you can see the boss's weakness on the stage select screen if you have it. I think the presentation of the game is okay. The graphics are certainly not up to the standards of the current generation, but they're clean and not confusing. And there's a few areas I really like, though they usually come at the cost of frame rate. I particularly like the highway stage, not just because it's jumping across moving platforms like that stage in Mega Man Zero 2, but because there's a billboard for the Proto-Men in the background.
Represent!
Animations do not fare nearly as well. The ones in-game are fine, but cutscenes feature a lot of repeated animations, static camera angles, and no one's mouth ever moves. I'd be fine with the texture of an open and closed mouth, just something resembling lip-syncing. The music, I can't really speak for. Not the game's fault though, it's summer. I had a fan running the whole time I was playing the game. The music got lost in the noise. And even for $40 backers, the soundtrack isn't available yet. But just so you know, there's a Mega Man rap during the credits. I kinda like the voice acting, it's just the right amount of cheesy. Like Powered Up. Maybe it could use a few less puns. Beck's voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, who I adore. Well, except that.
Vic! And still operational! Just as the professor predicted!
But Shade is voiced by Steve Bloom, who seriously can do no wrong.
Enough. It's time we settle this like robots.
I particularly like how dialogue happens during gameplay without interrupting it. I love games with real-time conversations. Maybe I've just suffered through X5's Alia enough to appreciate this. I'm not going to pretend this game doesn't have problems. It does. It's technically flawed, level designs are too quick to kill, story doesn't go anywhere besides the robot uprising being stopped, the weapons aren't as useful as they should be, I have absolutely no idea what Bat's weapon is, I never used it, and it gets really damn hard by the end. But I had a good time with it overall, more so the second run, so Mighty No. 9 comes recommended no matter what else you hear. It stays close to the solid Mega Man foundation while doing a few new things, which doesn't always work, but it gives the game an identity. It's not just a shameless copy like the Creon Conquest. Just expect it to be a flawed experience, and get the PC version if you can. It should run better if the demo was true.
There's a really good foundation here, with good mechanics and a world with possibilities for story expansion. It's a lot like Mega Man 1 in that regard, a flawed game that was still fun, but it was able to do so much more in a sequel. I'm making a lot of comparisons to other games in this review, I'm sorry about that, but that's what happens when a game sells itself on another series, even if I did conclude that this was different enough to be its own thing. It's a shame this game is going to be remembered as a laughingstock and a failure, because it really deserves the chance to have a sequel to fix its problems. Maybe if there was a more competent developer working on it, like Capcom. Wait.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. I'm also a part of a Let's Play channel you can check out if we ever upload, or you can look at my Twitter account where I've posted some strange things. I'm probably working on the next video now, so stay tuned.